He greeted the dawn of a placid and prosperous century, more than half of which ardor and I have now seen, with the beginning of his second philosophic fable, a, quote, denunciation of space, end of quote, never to be completed, but forming in rear vision a preface to his Texture of Time. Part of that treatise, a rather mannered affair, but nasty in sound, appeared in the first issue, January 1904, of a now famous American monthly, The Artisan, and a comment on the excerpt is preserved in one of the tragically formal letters, all destroyed save this one, that his sister sent him by public post now and then. Somehow, after the interchange occasioned by Lucette's death, such non-clandestine correspondence had been established with the tacit sanction of Demon. Quote, and o'er the summits of the tacit, he, banned from paradise, flew on. Beneath him, like a brilliance facet, Mount Peck with snow's eternal shone. End of quote. It would seem indeed that continued ignorance of each other's existence might have looked more suspicious than the following sort of note. Agavia Ranch, February 5th, 1905. I have just read Reflections in Sidra by Ivan Veen, and I regard it as a grand piece, dear Professor. The, quote, lost shafts of destiny, end of quote, or other poetical touches reminded me of the 2 or 3 times you had tea and muffins at our place in the country about 20 years ago. I was, you remember, presumptuous phrase, a petite fille modèle, practicing archery near a vase in a parapet, and you were a shy schoolboy with whom, as my mother guessed, I may have been a wee bit in love, who dutifully picked up the arrows I lost in the lost shrubbery of the lost castle of poor Lucette's and happy Adette's childhood. Now a home for blind blacks, both my mother and Elle, I'm sure, would have backed Dasha's advice to turn it over to her sect. Dasha, my sister-in-law, you must meet her soon. Yes, she's dreamy and lovely and lots more intelligent than I. Who showed me your piece, asked me to add she hopes to renew your acquaintance, maybe in Switzerland at the Bellevue in Montreux in October. I think you once met pretty Miss Kim Blackrent. Well, that's exactly dear Dasha's type. She's very good at perceiving and pursuing originality in all kinds of studies, which I can't even name. She finished Chose, where she read history. Our Lucette used to call it Sale Histoire. So sad and funny. For her, you're le bout ténébreux, because once upon Libellula Wings, not long before my marriage, she attended, at that time, I'm stuck in my turnstile, one of your public lectures on dreams, after which she went up to you with her latest little nightmare all typed out and neatly clipped together, and you scowled darkly and refused to take it. Well, she's been after Uncle Diminity to have him admonish Le Bout Ténébreux to come to Montreux Bellevue Hotel in October, around the 17th, I guess, and he only laughs and says it's up to Dashinka and me to arrange matters. So Kongs, again, dear Yvonne, you are, we both think, a marvelous and inimitable artist who should also only laugh if cretinic critics, especially lower upper middle class Englishmen, accuse his turnstile of being coy and arch, much as an American farmer finds the parson peculiar because he knows Greek. P.S. Dushevno klanyayas, quote, am solidly bowing, end of quote, an incorrect and vulgar construction evoking the image of a bowing soul. Nashimo zauchno dorogomo professoru, quote, to our unsight unseen dear professor, end of quote, o kotorum mnogo schlisal, about whom have heard so much. At dobrego dementia dedalovicha I sesritzi, from Good Demon and my sister. Su uvaginium, with respect, Andre Vainlander. Furnished space, l'espace meublé, known to us only as furnished and full, even if its contents be, quote, absence of substance, end of quote, which seats the mind, too. Furnished space, l'espace meublé, known to us only as furnished and full, even if its contents be, quote, absence of substance, end of quote, which seats the mind, too, is mostly watery so far as this globe is concerned. In that form, it destroyed Lucette, another variety, more or less atmospheric, but no less gravitational and loathsome, destroyed Demon. Idly, one March morning, 1905, on the terrace of Villa Armina, where he sat on a rug surrounded by 4 or 5 lazy nudes like a Sultan van, opened an American daily paper published in Nice. In the fourth or fifth worst airplane disaster of the young century, a gigantic flying machine had inexplicably disintegrated at 15,000 feet above the Pacific, between Lisiansky and Lasinoff Islands in the Gavail region. A list of leading figures dead in the explosion comprised the advertising manager of a department store, the acting foreman in the sheet metal division of a facsimile corporation, a recording firm executive, the senior partner of a law firm, an architect with heavy aviation background, a first misprint here, impossible to straighten out, the vice president of an insurance corporation, another vice president, this time of a board of adjustment, whatever that might be. "I'm hungry," said a Mossad Lebanese beauty of 15 sultry summers. "Use Bell," said Van, continuing in a state of odd fascination to go through the compilation of labeled lives. The president of a wholesale liquor distributing firm, the manager of a turbine equipment company, a pencil manufacturer, 2 professors of philosophy, 2 newspaper reporters with nothing more to report, the assistant controller of a wholesome liquor distribution bank, misprinted and misplaced, the assistant controller of a trust company, a president, the secretary of a printing agency. The names of those big shots, as well as those of some 80 other men, women, and silent children who perished in blue air, were being withheld until all relatives had been reached, but the tabulatory preview of commonplace abstractions had been thought to be too imposing not to be given at once as an appetizer. And only on the following morning did Van learn that a bank president lost in the closing garble was his father. Quote, "The lost shafts of every man's destiny remain scattered all around him," end of quote, etc. Reflections in Sidra. The last occasion on which Van had seen his father was at their house in the spring of 1904. Other people had been present: old Elliot, the real estate man, 2 lawyers, Gromchevsky and Gromwell, Dr. Akes, the art expert, Rosalind Knight, Demon's new secretary, and solemn Kithar Sween, a banker who at 65 had become an avant-garde author. In the course of one miraculous year, he had produced The Waistline, a satire in free verse on Anglo-American feeding habits, The Waistline, and Cardinal Grishkin, an overtly subtle yarn extolling the Roman faith. The poem was but the twinkle in an owl's eye. As to the novel, it had already been pronounced seminal by celebrated young critics, Norman Gersh, Louis Deer, many others, who lauded it in reverential voices pitched so high that an ordinary human ear could not make such of that treble volubility. It seemed, however, all very exciting, and after a great bang of obituary essays in 1910, Kithar Sween, the man and the writer, Sween as poet in person, Kithar Kerman Laver Sween, a tentative biography. Both the satire and the romance were to be forgotten as thoroughly as that acting foreman's control of background adjustment or Demon's edict. The table talk dealt mainly with business matters. Demon had recently bought a small, perfectly round Pacific island with a pink house on a green bluff and a sand beach like a frill as seen from the air, and now wished to sell the precious little palazzo in East Manhattan that Van did not want. Mr. Sween, a greedy practitioner with flashy rings on fat fingers, said he might buy it if some of the pictures were thrown in. The deal did not come off.